Every movie critic needs to find their own style to stand out among the crowd. This one man that I'm talking with right now, you can fully see he is comfortable in his own skin, but also too, his style is one in a million. Who could I be talking about? I'm talking to film reviewer, the man who has stylized in doing JB classics, trailer reactions, rankings, and endings explained poorly. I'm talking the one and only J Buck Studios, aka Jared Buckendahl. How are you doing, brother?
I am doing great. I am excited for this. Again, you reached out recently, and I was very excited to just talk about my channel, myself. It sounds like you've done your research so I am very much like I'm giddy right now. It's like Christmas morning.
And that's the best way to start it, man.
Yes.
And as y'all know, this is Getting Real with Ronald E. Smith. And on my channel, I love to speak to so many content creators and just to get to know them and to see how they got here, the things they go through each and every day, and what pushes them to achieve greatness. And that's what we want to do here. And Jared, I think we're going to have a good time today.
Yes, I hope so.
Because first of all, Jared, the one thing I did when I looked you up for a bit, I noticed that your channel started in 2006.
Yes, it did. Man, and it's kind of funny because it's like, what if I would have, jumped on this trend of YouTube back then? But do you want to kind of know like the origins of how I got started?
Well, that's the thing, because like it said in 2006, but when I look at your older videos, the year span is so different. So yes, please go ahead and tell us the beginnings of Jared.
Okay, so again, YouTube was like a thing that popped up when we were in high school. So I was like, okay, what is this? Is this just a platform people throw random videos? Because it was basically the evolution of dance and then whatever else was on there. But I had taken a class, and I'm so grateful to this teacher and this class and everything. But it was the last year of high school, and we had a new class called video productions, and it was kind of a branch off. We had a little bit of video, audio in a different class, but this was like solely based to iMovie, how to film stuff, how to record stuff, how to match stuff, how to add music, basically the very beginnings of how to make a video. And that class just opened up my creativity and eyes of like, oh, I have all these ideas in my mind and I can put them on screen. So like one of the first, I guess, assignments we had in the class was a day in the life of you. And everyone, it was just like, hey, what is your day-to-day life? So everyone kind of did it, serious, like, okay, I wake up, go to school, I do this, I do that, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, you know what? Let's do this different. And I made it essentially a talk show. So I was the guest on the talk show, and then I'm telling how my life is. And then it's very much like a dramatized version of my day. And that was kind of the beginning, because even to this day, I think, I know that when my sister was in high school, he still used my video as an example for other people. So that's sort of one of the first videos. I think there's another one on my channel, but that was back in 2006 because we made these videos for class. We wanted to share them. Where do you share them? Maybe Facebook. Otherwise, it was YouTube. So that's why my channel exists in 2006, was because that video, essentially my first video, was the first thing on my channel. But then, like you're saying, there's huge gaps because, that class ended. I didn't have my own editing software. I didn't have a camera. I went to college, life, all that stuff got in the way. And then my first actual film review was about 2017. I want to say May 2017.
Whoa, that's a jump.
Yeah.
You said you put those videos up in 2006, and like you brought up, you kind of got a little bit of a head start from a lot of people, especially with editing software,
Mm-hmm.
But as we're still in the beginning stage, was the start of it for you? Was it always to be a film critic or a film reviewer, or was it before 2017? Who were you, and what were your goals prior to all that?
Okay. Wow. I love this question. So like obviously the whole film stuff, I mean, going back to that whole high school, that same semester I took a Photoshop class. So it's like, here's one semester of editing, one semester of Photoshop. What can I do with this? And I didn't do anything. I went to college and I got a double degree, one in finance and one in accounting. So it's kind of funny what I'm doing now, what I was doing before, and in between, I went and got business degrees to essentially work in an office. I think that it's one of those things where it was outside pressure. It was the pressure of a stable life and everything. I did plan B for plan A. So that's why, like right now, I'm like, I need to try this. If it fails, whatever. I have a backup. I'm always one of those like risk averse type people. I was like, okay, I'm gonna cover my bases. But getting into the movie situation. So like I grew up, I mean, everyone's like, oh, I've loved movies all my life. You know, I was a casual fan, I would say. I never really diving into it, I never spent money. So like going to the movie theaters, especially because the town I grew up in was very small. I mean, there was a movie theater 5 miles away, but not having a car and then having to share a car with siblings and stuff, I just never went to the movies. So I was a casual movie fan of kind of, you know, just watching what was on TV, maybe renting it on Friday nights with friends. It wasn't really until my like love of movies fully got ignited or reignited, I guess, until I was in college. I met this girl, and the reason she just jumped on the map was because she was able to quote certain movies like Dumb and Dumber and these movies that I grew up with and I loved. And then I realized, oh, she goes to the movies like every single week, and she was schooling me on, like, she showed me so many movies that I had never seen. And I think that that's what kind of got me like, oh, I love movies. I know this is going to be my thing. And then obviously, you know how any kind of relationship goes, it doesn't end well.
Of course.
So we did obviously break up. But then I had this like weird middle ground where I'm like, okay, I've graduated college. I'm now working at a desk. What is me? Who is Jared? You know, like what is my personality? I don't want to be one of those people that's like, my personality is just drinking. I mean, that seems boring. I mean, cool, you do your thing. I had so much like creativity that I'd make like even before the in between of like Vine and TikTok, I'd just make random videos and just post them, like a quick 30-second video. And I think finally and this is kind of cliched, I guess, but I saw the movie La La Land. And if you are familiar with that movie, it ends in a certain way. Yes, great. It ends in a certain way where it's kind of like, do you pick the girl or do you pick your passion?
Right.
And I went into that movie, one, not knowing it was a musical, and I'm a big musical fan. Yeah, it was, oh my gosh, it was shocking. I saw it twice. Like I went into it and then the next day I went back. And I think that ending just struck a chord with me. I was like, I need to do something. I need to like, who am I? So like for the next 3 months, and I was supposed to launch my channel in March of 2017 because that month was Beauty and the Beast, Ghost in the Shell, Kong Skull Island, and one other big movie.
Okay. All right.
It would have been a great month. Yeah, I had it all planned out. But again, I mean, we kind of touched on it a little bit. You want to be perfect. You're your own biggest critic, essentially.
Right.
So I wanted everything to be perfect. March came and went, and I didn't start my channel. So I was like, I have to do this. Like, otherwise, it's always just going to be a back in my mind what could have been. So Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 comes out, and boom, do my first review. It's obviously horrible. But I'm like, I've done it. I just have to keep doing it. So that's kind of almost the lead up of, you know, kind of like reigniting my love of film, transitioning into film as critics, because also people that were kind of I wouldn't say influences, but like when I was working at that job, I was sitting at a desk listening to podcasts all day because I was like, I ran out of music. Like I listened to the same music over and over and over again. And I was like, I got to switch this up. And I stumbled upon AMC Movie Talk at that time, which then transitioned into Collider Movie Talk and a few other, you know, people that would come in and out. And I was like, wait a minute, you can get paid for talking about movies. And I think that that was kind of a thing that I was like, wait a minute, what? Anyone can do this. Just go watch a movie and talk about it. Obviously, it's a lot more difficult than just that. But that was kind of the beginnings of everything. I was like, I'm going to do this. This is going to be my thing. And I'm going to try to do it as best I can. And obviously, 3 years later, here we are.
And that's really the first step of us. You know what I mean? Because it's scary. When you want to achieve something, or you feel that you're worth more than what you thought in the past of yourself, it's always hard to take that first step, because you're afraid to fail. Also, we know there's also going to be some people who may not look at what you're trying to do, or may second guess you. Did you have that? Did anyone, whether it be friends or family, say, why are you doing this?
Do you want the simple answer or the in-depth answer?
Give me what you got.
All right. I mean, obviously, yeah, because it's a thing where I grew up, and I guess I thought I have to do this. I have to go to college. I have to get a job. I have to get married. I have to have a family. And straying outside of that essentially lane was always how I felt. And I was like, what are people going to think? What are people going to do? And I mean, it wasn't like I just up and quit my job and I'm like making a YouTube video for 10 views. Right. I started doing it. And obviously at first people are like, oh my gosh, like what is this? And like the first few videos, people are like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. But then you kind of get the committed people, and a lot of people kind of fall by the wayside because they're like, oh, okay, whatever. It's something new. This is what he does. Whatever. That's him now. But yeah, I would say for the first, honestly, 2 years, I kind of felt self-conscious about talking it sometimes. One example, I think why I did it was because, like, going back home or going to a wedding or something, you always have two conversations. How are you, and what have you been up to, or something like that.
Don't I know it?
Yeah, and I always was like, I'd work at this job, blah, blah, blah. But once I started doing that, people are like, oh my gosh, like you see all these movies, and literally I could talk to them for hours just about what I've seen and what my thoughts were. And I'm like, this is why I want to do this. I want to have something to talk about. So that was a nice kind of, give back essentially when I would get into those situations. And they're like, so like, what, like, I've seen all this stuff online. Like, what have you been up to? Like, what are you doing? And then I just tell them. But like I would say maybe it's just my own mind, but getting my parents on board for stuff was the biggest thing. I think within the last like 2 months during this, whole crazy time we're living in, right, they've slowly realized what I do or what I'm trying to do, the amount of work that goes into it, and the amount of people that actually respond to that stuff. Because at first I think they thought it was just like this hobby that would just go away. And it's like, cool, it's a hobby now, but I want this to be a thing, whether I make it big or I get hired by someone, or it does just become a hobby. Like, I don't think it's ever going to stop because of the amount of work I've put into it. Like, thus far, I'm like, it would just be a waste. It's a bad investment.
Kudos to your parents for just seeing that what your work is, it's all going into something, and it's your passion. It's something you love to do. I'm talking with Jared Buckendahl, and now that we've seen the steps of what took you to start the channel, now let's talk about the process of it. What of your style? Because I'll say this, there's always a style of movie film critics that I've seen, and they're all kind of in like the same way. But I can honestly say when I've always watched your videos, they're different. You have a lot of energy, and your funny sketches, and it just shows that your channel that shows that, oh man, this guy has a different way of telling the story of these movies, and I want to watch. Mm-hmm. What inspired you to do that?
Well, one, you're so kind for saying that. But I think it ties back to that whole class, and throughout those 11 years that I was just absent, is like I would do funny Snapchats, I would do funny quick videos, and it was like I put like a lot of time into just something that 2 people maybe saw. So I think within the second or third review on my channel, I think I instantly found my style. Not the way I talk, not the way I, verbalize things, but kind of, okay, I can do a funny sketch to reel people in, and then they'll listen to my stuff and maybe throw sketches or funny jokes or lip syncs and stuff in between there. And I think that that was just what I had. I realize it now, but at that time I didn't. That what sets me apart is probably my humor, the comedic elements. And I know that, comedy is very subjective. A lot of people have commented, "You're not funny, stop it, you're trying too hard." But then I've had a lot of people, show love and expression, and just like kind of what you said, it's different. And that's very tough to do in this YouTube film community, is because you don't want to fall into that batch of you're doing the same videos, you have the same set, you have the same look, you have the same everything that everyone does. And believe me, a lot of my stuff falls into that, same. But there's a lot of elements that I'm trying to be the only one that does that. Again, I'm not the only one that's doing these grandiose intros and sketches and stuff, but I try to make that my thing. Like every video, I wouldn't say every, there's been a few that haven't, but every video I'm trying to do a sketch that relates to the movie or somehow draws you in to the film.
Just to backtrack, what you brought up was something that I also saw as well, of a lot of film reviewers do have the same kind of formula of like the background, the props behind them, how their production looks before they set everything out. And you're right, because there's a lot of copycats. People say, there's nothing wrong with that, but the problem too is that as long as you keep doing that, people will always say you look like this person.
Yep.
You look like A and B, so it's not you yet.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, but with yours, was there ever fear of you not trying to stay on that route of so many film reviewers? Like, if I go in this direction, no one will ever look at my stuff. Was there ever that tiny doubt in your mind for that?
Oh yeah. I mean, still to this day, I think that there's still that doubt. I mean, honestly, within this last 6 months, I think that I finally hit who I am, my style on my channel, the videos I want to do, and work. Because for a long time, it was like, okay, I need to do a ranking video after this movie comes out because that means that there's 7 DCEU movies and we're gonna rank them. And no like shade or anything against other creators. It works for them and they love it. I was forcing myself to do those certain things to fit into that essentially mold of other people. But as for like the background and stuff of my channel, like I don't know if some people I guess have been fooled by it, but my background is just a green screen. Like the background that I have for my channel, I completely photoshopped all those posters, that memorabilia and stuff back there. And the reason I lean towards the green screen, because I know some people I want a static set. I want to come in, I want to sit down, I want to do my thing. The reason I have that green screen is because of all of those sketches. Like I want to put a fake background. I want to be in a car. I want to be in space. Like I want to have that freedom to do what anything that's in my mind, I want to be able to throw on there. So that's kind of just the aesthetic. But as for like the type of videos, yeah, I would say, within probably the first 2 years, I was just trying to find how to do these, how do I do them right? And also like those ranking videos, I was just trying to fit the mold of what everyone else does. And again, they work for many people. They just don't seem to work for me because I tried to find different ways to work around them, do them my own style, and they just didn't work. I've tried many iterations of it, and it just did not work. So I unfortunately moved away from those.
That could be defeating, like when you see the the structure of how it should work for your channel, but then when you say I did it, I tried it, and it's not working, that can really hurt your what's the word? It can really hurt your growth and your belief in yourself of pushing on in your work.
Oh yeah, and the thing is, I think it did. Is like the bad thing is for myself, comparison. It's always like looking and being like, oh, well, what the heck? There's got so many more. What they do different? What they do right? You know, and that's why I would slowly start maybe modeling off of theirs, because I'm like, oh, if I do what they're doing, I'm going to get that result. But it's because they were doing it like that's them. It wasn't me. I was doing a template of someone else trying to put my style into it, and it just didn't reflect as much. And I mean, even if you look at my videos for ranking videos, I try to do something where it was like ranking under a certain minute, where I would really quickly rank these movies, but completely Photoshop with stop motion graphics, essentially.
Mm.
And they were really fun, but no one responded to them. So unfortunately, I mean, and they took like 50 hours to do. So like, I guess if anything I take away from that, I look at the positives. I learned how to edit even better, where I could picture in my mind, okay, this arm has to be up here while this person's getting shot, or this explosion. Like, it was honestly a roundabout way of just teaching myself how editing software works and how it's going to look at the back end.
A lot of people who watch the videos that you put and so many other people put on YouTube, it's a lot of work. They see the end result, but they don't see the work to get everything done. Especially when you put that one video that you just said that you put like hours and hours to get right, and it doesn't get nothing for you, you know, and then you're like, what am I doing? Like, like I didn't get no sleep the last 3 days, and now what? It got less response. What am I doing then? Why? That could be deflating so fast. But also you said, for the negative, you took a positive, and you said, well, you know what? I learned some tricks. I learned some ways to improve my editing that can make me do this a lot faster now. So it's a good way that you're able to turn coal into a diamond.
Exactly. And that's, again, I get down on myself a lot, but I'm a very positive person as well. So like, maybe
your videos.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Like, say that video that I spent hours, days on, the next day or the next week, I'm just like down in the dumps. But now looking back at it, it's like, that was probably just a teaching. I learned from it. I learned certain aspects. I learned what's going to work, what's not going to work, and I learned how to edit. So it's like, cool, I took things from that. Even a complete side story. Before I did YouTube, I tried to do Twitch for about 6 months. I had a decent following. I think maybe like 100 followers, and certain people would tune in every day and just check it out. Honestly, it wasn't good, but I learned how to, again, edit through that. I learned how to Photoshop a little better, and I learned how to use OBS and live streaming. Again, that was like in 2014 or 15, I want to say. So again, it's a long time ago, but I was able to, now that I live stream a lot more, I was able to take all of those skills from that essentially failed project and now use it again.
You can't grow while being stuck in the mud. You got to experiment. You got to try things. And if you fail, you learn from the mistakes and you push on something else. And that's good. And a lot of people are always afraid of that because the first thing you think about is failure. Speaking with Jared Buckendahl. If you guys enjoyed so far what we've talked about, and you want to see his channel, or you just want to follow him on the socials, follow him on Instagram and Twitter at Jared Buckendahl. But if you want to see his channel and all his film work, go at jbuckstudios.youtube.com. Now, we're going up here to after the 2 years from when you started and your growth through YouTube. As you continue to grow now and you continue to put more work into your content, do you see in your way of how you want this channel to go, or how you feel you want to evolve as a film reviewer? Like, do you feel that maybe you want to experiment more, collab more, or is that just more like harder for you to network with people?
I think probably within the last year, my biggest thing was collabs because of the work. With collabs, there is a loss of quality at times where, you're going through Skype, you're going through StreamYard, you're going through some sort of server where the video quality is going to go down, the sound quality is going to line up. So that was a big reason I didn't like to do collabs on my channel, because I wanted that perfection. I'm very much a perfectionist, but luckily through this 3-year journey, I've realized some things have to just be let go for other things to go through. So that was my biggest thing for not doing collabs, really. But then I got a podcast. I do a video podcast every other week. And I finally was just like, okay, let it go. As long as people can listen and hear what we're talking about, then it's going to be okay. So I kind of get a little lenient with that. But then a few other things that have kind of transformed. And again, you can look at my channel from the very beginnings. I slowly brought on more and more content, or different series, I guess, like J-Buck Classics, for example. Absolutely love doing those. Unfortunately, they don't get as many views as other stuff, and the amount of time just putting in like certain graphical, like how to make footage look old, because if people aren't aware, those videos are essentially reviews from the 90s that are supposed to be recorded on a VHS. So I go through and put like a bunch of filters and a bunch of just random things in there to make it look old. So that was added, but also like Ending Explains, just recently J-Buck Live, which is a weekly like live news with sketches and commercials and a bunch of weird stuff in there. I think that it's a thing where I don't get to a point where it's like, okay, well, I've done it all. I'm always like, okay, I did that. Now what's next? Okay, I did that. What's next? And it can be bad, because I think it's always like this, I wouldn't say a moving target of happiness, but like I'm never really satisfied, where I always think I can do better, which might be good, which might be bad. I guess it really depends how you look at it.
No, I mean that you want to always keep pushing forward. I mean, look, you put in a lot of work and creating ideas, and you also can't always come to terms of when you see that something's not working, because some people will try to keep pushing that boulder up the cliff, and they know that it keeps sliding off, and you're like, what's the point? And that's the hardest thing to accept. Like, you know what, this isn't working. Let me swallow my pride, move this away, and try something else, or keep moving on with this other thing over here, because it is working. People are liking it. But as a film reviewer, it's sometimes hard to be, I say that borderline of being honest and just saying things because that's what people want to hear. As you know, I call it film Twitter.
The old film Twitter.
Man, like there are those mobs that will defend a movie to the end. That will say, this is good, you have to like it, or the opposite, this movie's terrible, you have to hate it. Have you ever had to either lie to yourself and say, oh yeah, I like the movie, but you really didn't like it? Or did you say, no, I did not like this film, I don't care if you don't like it, and got hit with a negative wave of comments?
I mean, for certain people, especially starting off, I think that is very much like a moral conundrum of, oh no, if I didn't like this, are people going to respond to my content, or are people going to disappear? I will say, oh my gosh, excuse me. At the beginning, I would always, because I don't get early screeners, so usually like, people in LA or other outlets, they'll have the reviews up on Wednesday or Thursday. I used to always check on like a handful of other people's reviews, and then I slowly realized that that's very much making me think that way when I'm watching the movie. So now I don't watch I try to stay away from everything until I've seen the movie.
It's hard. That's hard to do that sometimes too.
It is very, yeah, especially since, like you're saying, that whole film Twitter, because once something comes out, people are just jumping on it and instantly giving their initial thoughts. So that is tough. But a prime example of me essentially standing my ground, and there's a lot of stuff where I'm very indifferent. Like, I don't really get too passionate about certain things, because I'm like, at the end of the day, I'm sorry, but it's just a movie. Like, I'm not going to be like, I'm going to rip you apart because you didn't like this movie. And it's like, cool, man, you have your own opinion. But Birds of Prey. we're not going to talk about the film, but we're going to talk about the trailer. So
Okay.
2 trailers were released, and the first trailer, I was just like, the tone's really not there. I don't know what to feel about this, and that was a trailer reaction. The second trailer came out. I did a trailer reaction. Somehow, I wouldn't say blew up, but it got like 2,000 views, and I think only 30% of people liked it. Everyone else disliked my video because I said, this movie doesn't look good. It looks like it's a very mishmash of a plot line. What is the point? I think the title is ridiculous, which, side note, they completely changed the title or condensed it because people, even the marketing, they were like, why do we name this movie such a long title? And I was looking at it from a purely, not a fan point of view, but from a business point of view, because again, that's where my college education is, where I'm like, how do you sell this movie? And I think that that is what the people that were mobbing on me, hating on me, giving me people like that one video, people called me sexist. They called me unfunny. They called me ugly. They told me to delete my channel because no one's going to watch my content. And at this point, luckily I have enough confidence through YouTube that I can just kind of laugh at that. But I just kind of realized, I'm like, man, this is really like, this is people's lives. Like, they love this stuff. And if you say it's wrong or you don't like it, they're very much going to be offended or take it against you. So that's one prime example of like people mobbing on me. And it's like, then I have that thing where, am I going to change my mind when the movie comes out, or am I going to stick on my point of view? And again, a trailer is completely subjective, not the what the final product is going to be.
Of course.
Went into the movie with an open mind, and I landed on the side of not liking it. And again, my review, some people commented, they're like, wow, you're actually like, I remember one person was like, I actually respect you because you were essentially brave enough to say your own, be honest. And I'm like, well, if you're not going to be honest in this thing, why are you doing it?
That's true, because how many times have we ever heard of someone talk about a movie and they said that they liked it, but then you wait a couple months later or a year later and they come back and say, actually, I didn't really like it. I just said it because I didn't want to get hit with a lot of negative reviews, or they just say, I'm not going to review this movie. I'm not going to touch it because the community is just too toxic to deal with. And like you said before, it's a movie. There's a lot of things going on in the world that are way more important than kicking butt superheroes, men and women in tights spewing laser beams. It's not important. It's supposed to be entertainment. And it's sad that some of these people will come out and say these things to you, and like try to really rip you up for something that you'll forget in the next day. But was that the first wave of criticism you ever had to deal with? Because you said that your confidence was able to help you push through that. So have you ever experienced anything like that before? And if not, what things did you do to not allow yourself to slip into feeling depressed of the negative reaction that you were getting?
Yeah. So I think I maybe have 2 different answers for this. Like, obviously through YouTube, for anyone that's listening that's maybe starting off, just don't let the comments get to you. I know that once you get a comment, it's awesome, but then when it's negative, it very much stings. I would say for the first year and a half, and again, it was sparingly, because I was a smaller channel, but if and when someone jumped in there and said something, it very much stung. But I don't know what happened or what I did or what I think I finally just was like, why am I doing this? It doesn't matter what Joe Nobody from Alabama thinks. I'm doing this because of me. They don't have to watch my content. So I think that it finally just clicked where I'm like, these people might just be frustrated by something else. Because funny thing is, like, not the Birds of Prey one, but I've gotten sprinkle in hateful comments every here or there. And when you respond in a manner of just kind of joking or be like, okay, like, you're right, I'm going to take that and like take that criticism and kind of learn from it, then they'll respond and be like, oh my gosh, I didn't think you were going to read this. I didn't mean to be mean. Borderline, they'll apologize and be like, thank you so much for like taking it the way the criticism was. And again, they could have phrased it a little less harsh.
A little bit.
Yeah, believe me, I've gotten some hateful stuff. And then they come back and they're like, oh, I'm so sorry. And it's like, yeah, well, I read this stuff. Like, this is this is my job. I'm going to read this stuff. Um, so that's one thing. But I think I was able to build that, I wouldn't say immunity or thick skin up, but like even going back to like middle school and stuff, I am not. mm, I would say that I wouldn't say I'm like the most attractive of people, or I was always a little shorter and stuff. So like you had to deal with that, and that's kind of how I developed my humor and whatnot. But also like a prime example that I always track back to of like learning that, hey, this is how life works, and you're just not going to get the way you always want, and bad things and blah blah blah, and don't let criticism get to you. I was on this basketball team since I was like fifth, or not even fifth grade, like second grade. And again, I never really practiced that much. I put the same amount of work in as people at practice, but I was shorter. The coaches weren't like, my parents or like friends of my parents or anything like that. So like basically for all of middle school, all of high school, you just sit on the bench and people just kind of stare at you. And it's like, this is so like draining.
I know
So
that
it's,
feeling all too well, man.
yeah, yeah. And it's this thing of where I kind of learned how life worked at a young age, but I also realized that like I don't know how it's somehow like everything that happens somehow ties in with, hateful stuff, because it's like I can just brush it off because I've been through worse. Like that's basically what it is. It's like I've like YouTube, like some people are like, oh well, are you ever gonna stop? And it's like, well, I played basketball for 10 years and got nowhere. So I can do YouTube for 10 years and I've already gotten way farther than I did in this basketball situation. Um, so it's this weird thing where I've almost like built up this weird. I've been shit on a lot, so it's like I've built up this thing where I can deal with stuff.
Can you say that the Jared now is different from the Jared years ago when you were that young?
Oh, 1000%.
Tell us the feeling that you are now compared to what you were in the past.
Well, the thing, I mean, honestly, I feel like I know who I am now. That's one thing. I mean, that's with life and everyone trying to, figure out who you are, what's your thing. But it's funny because a lot of people, from my videos and stuff, one of my friends actually the other day was just like, it's weird because when I watch your videos, that's actually who you are. And then like when you're in your normal life, you're, maybe not who you are, which is so odd to say. So when people are like, oh, he's just acting, it's like, no, that's actually who I am. In real life, I have to not be who I am. But like growing up, I was very much like the shy kid. I very much was reserved. I didn't go outside of the box. I only kind of talked when I was talking, like spoken to. But like there were every now and then like a little hint of like, oh, he has something hidden inside. He just doesn't know how to get it out yet. Where like we would at school for like homecoming, we would have like lip syncs and stuff where I'm this like small reserved kid. I'd be out there up front just like making everyone laugh or trying to make people cheer. And then I think that at a young age was me realizing, oh, I love to perform. I don't like to exactly like sit down and like give a speech in a class, but I would rather go up there, do something outlandish, ridiculous, make people laugh, make people happy, and I can do that.
So
And
it was always there.
yeah, and see that's the thing is it was always there. It just had to be a little like cracked open or maybe like pushed into the spotlight.
Right.
Because yeah, that same teacher that was my teacher of the video productions class, he was also like the speech coach or teacher and got me involved in that as well. So I got on stage speaking and through like choral reading and other kind of improv and stuff like that. So I was able to work up that skill essentially. But one of the biggest things I think to help me not only do ridiculous things on stage, but like get that, bring out the creativity as well was when I was in college, I was part of a hip hop dance crew. And
oh my goodness.
Yeah, which is so surprising. But like, I never had danced prior to that. Joined this, absolutely loved it. The next year, my sister and myself became choreographers. We had our own group. We filmed our own, like we made our own dance. We did our own like theatricals and like put like the humor that you see in my videos was even sprinkled into those hip hop dance things. So that was like the biggest thing, because I was like, I like the feeling of performing live and getting that response is a feeling that like it's almost like a drug. I know that some people think that that's like a cliched saying, but it felt so good. So then, yeah, when I left college and I was just like, I wouldn't say living this boring life, but it was mundane. Go to work, come home, that's it. Once I found YouTube or started doing that, I was like, oh my gosh, I have sort of an outlet to get a little bit of that back in my life.
And as you all know, I'm speaking with Jared Buckendahl. And as you just spoke about, because I know you say now you're saying that you've found a full purpose with YouTube. And it's always true what they say, not everything's always set in stone. But you also said that you're the kind of person that you spent, over what 10 years in basketball, and you're ready to ride this YouTube as long as you can. Is there ever that fear of what if this also doesn't work? Has that ever creeped in your mind?
Oh man, don't do this. Don't do this to me. Yes, I mean that's the thing is I think that honestly I'm gonna be honest, like it happens at least once a week. I know that some people like look at my channel maybe and think that I'm just like this super happy, I'm confident, I know what I'm doing. Believe me, I'm second guessing stuff every single day. But also it's this weird thing where when I would listen to podcasts, which I think in a roundabout way, certain podcasts or certain guests on podcast have helped me as well, because they'll say, oh yeah, I was talking to my dad and he's like 75 and he'll tell me about this stuff that he wish he would have done, essentially regrets. And that's my thing is like, I mean, even at the young age I am, I have a few regrets, but it's like this I'm going to do, I'm going to try, I'm going to try, I'm going to try. If anything and it fails, it does, but at least I tried, I put my all into it. I learned all of, and even if it does, I learned all of these skills, so then I could potentially go get a job somewhere in broadcasting, in editing, in design, because my degrees aren't in that. But I've learned all of this stuff where a lot of people think that that's what my major is. No, starting YouTube, I knew how to just cut clips. Now I know how to green screen, I know how to use motion graphics, and even then I'm still far from like the top tier of After Effects and stuff. But it's this weird thing where yes, in the back of my mind I'm thinking sometimes, honestly weekly, what if this doesn't work? But at least I tried and it might open up opportunities to something else. So believe me, I would very much love to do this whole YouTube thing full time or get picked up by someone. And I just want to create. I think that that's my thing is, there's that whole idea of a starving artist. Like, as long as I can be happy, I can make other people happy, and I can put my whatever is happening in my brain on screen or on a sketch or on a piece of paper, and it makes someone's day better, that's all I'm there for.
As y'all know, I'm speaking with Jared Buckendahl, and that right there is why you won't stop, because you see, in the end, you find purpose in what you do, and you have drive in what you do. And you said too that you listen to podcasts, people to inspire you or just to give you some energy of belief in yourself. Can you tell the audience any other podcast people you have listened to who have encouraged you or motivated you to keep doing what you're doing?
Oh man, this is the one. Like I said, the one that I kind of started listening to just to get myself into the movie sphere, I guess, is AMC Movie Talk, which turned into Collider Movie Talk, and it's kind of not really exist or morphed into something else, but it was just learning, oh, these people were in that field too, where they were kind of just thrown into let's just film a random review on YouTube, and now they essentially do it full time. Like people might not be aware, but Schmodown and like SEN Live, like this guy, he kind of broke off. He films and records and does everything in his garage, and he maxed out credit cards. And I'm like, that is literally like rolling the dice. Again, he has a lot more context and people than I would ever have, I'm assuming. But it's this thing where it's like, if you believe in yourself and you have the drive, you just got to do it. But then another prime example is the Kind of Funny podcast. It's a group of guys that they worked at IGN, and then they kind of broke off like 4 or 5 years ago to start their own company. And I think that that was very inspiring as well, because they all had these full-time, they were secure for life essentially. And then they were like, we're breaking off, we want to do our own thing. And they were filming in like a spare room of an apartment. And mind you, they had years and years of stuff in the gaming. They had people that knew how to film. They knew people that knew how to like do audio. But it was just so inspiring to be like, oh God, these people are rolling the dice. They're risking it, but they know they believe in themselves. So it was this weird thing where it's like, no one's going to, my sister wrote this on the fridge, and it's been on the fridge ever since. She said like, no one's going to believe or work as hard as you do for your dream. Like no one's gonna want your dream as much as you do.
Say it louder. I love that.
Yeah,
I do.
yeah. And the thing is, it's funny because like when she lived with us, she was going to put a different quote every week, but then she moved, and that quote's been on there for a year now. So every day I see it, and it's just this weird thing where it reminds me of like, maybe I'm not feeling so well. Maybe I don't want to do this review. Maybe I'm not going to do it because someone else already did it first. And it's like, no, you're going to do this because you believe in yourself. And also it's like, this is what you want. You can't essentially slack. You can't not put the work out in that one day.
Right now, I'm going to ask you something that we're just going to throw it all out the window. All right. Let's say there ain't no restrictions. Let's say that the world is all quarantined up, okay? Let's say for Jared, if you could, for yourself and your career right now, for the future, what would you like for your channel to grow to be, or what ventures do you hope to achieve down the road?
I mean, the easy answer would be like, oh, I have 1 million subscribers. I would be happy with enough to survive, like enough to get by. I just want to be able to do this full time. So it's either I do it myself or my two buddies. They actually they've helped my channel, and they also have they kind of started a podcast right when I started my channel. So we've kind of been in this like weird kind of grouping, and we're trying to imagine how we could form together into like, kind of a group of people. So that would be cool if the three of us, because we're so talented, like one guy's a really good writer, one guy is a stand-up comedian, and then there's myself. And we have all of these talents, and I think it'd just be so cool to somehow get a group and be able to sustain it into, I don't know, a big channel or a company or something to, just provide entertainment content. So it would be, yeah, either myself, form a group with them, or honestly just kind of be able to go work for someone else, like Rooster Teeth and Funhouse. I don't know if people are aware of them, but like they are just an internet company that does all of these weird videos and podcasts and other fun stuff that I just feel like I would fit in so well there. I don't know how to get my foot in the door, and that would just be really cool as well. So it's kind of I haven't really like been like, boom, this is what I'm doing. I'm just essentially, what my channel is right now is almost a portfolio of like, hey, this is what I can do, and this is what I was able to go from to where I'm at now.
I'm speaking with Jared Buckendahl. And Jared, we've been having a good talk. I think we've really got your fans to know about you, your growth from what you were to what you are now. And before we say goodbye, I always love this part of my interviews, is when we give the shout outs and appreciation to the people who have been on your side, who have pushed you, who have held you when you couldn't walk any further. Right now, Jared, I want you to go and give any love that you want to anybody who's been by your side. The floor is yours. Go on ahead.
All right. So, I mean, right off the bat, like, I probably wouldn't keep doing this if it wasn't for my two college buddies and, great friends, Seth and Cody, who have the SoCo show. Like, they keep doing the podcast. They keep having me on. They keep, just kind of keep me going. But also, man, there's so many. I would say that there's like two different teachers. One from high school that was that the one that was the speech, and then also the video productions class. I feel like he was the one person that believed in me the most, of always just being like, you have something, you can do it, you know. The one thing that I always hated, but it does make sense, is he would always say to, even to my parents at like parent teacher conferences, he's like, Jared has so much potential, but he just doesn't apply himself. And it always pissed me off. But now it makes sense, because I'm like, you know what? I do. I just need to like essentially believe in myself and hunker down. But I also had another teacher that just kind of, you know, he was also an English and kind of speech teacher that kind of, you know, believed. He kind of said how it was. He believed, and he kind of was like, you have something. You just gotta kind of believe in yourself a little bit more. So those are kind of like the two people that really kind of, you know, stand out to me. I mean, I would also say like my sister, because she also is like helped in many creative endeavors. Her boyfriend, who is my friend as well, has helped quite a bit. I don't know. And then now, you know, slightly getting more into it since they know what's going on, I would say my parents, because they're slowly realizing. And man, someone said something the other day to me, and it made sense. They were like, your parents never said you couldn't, but they never said you could. So it's this weird thing of like, I don't know why I had this mindset of them being, you know, being like, oh, I need to go work a finance job. They're going to support me wherever I go. And I think I need to finally realize that.
That is so good. And last, before we say farewell, looking back again at young Jared to now, if you could have come back in time and you spoke to him, what words of advice would you say to him to get him motivated?
I think I would say, and it's funny because I have a reminder in my phone every now and then that this pops up, but it says, dream big, you got this.
That's all that needs to be said. My name is Ronald E. Smith. This is Jared Buckendahl. And y'all, I think we got real. Thank you very much. Like, share, and subscribe. And we'll see you again. Be safe.